a week after I fully paid off my condo. My sister showed up and announced that our parents had agreed to let her family move in. She expected me to leave and find another place. I'm 32, single, no kids, and I work in it. My parents live 30 minutes away in the same suburb where we grew up. My sister Rachel is 28, married to Mark, has a 1-year-old daughter. She was always the one teachers loved, the one neighbors praised. I was the one mowing lawns in summer while Rachel got to focus on school. My parents didn't mean to pick favorites, but if something broke, it was somehow my fault. If Rachel needed help, the whole family moved mountains. I had just finished paying off my condo 2 months ago, a 2-bedroom place in Chicago. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every inch of it had a story. The secondhand fridge that groaned every time it kicked on. The cheap dining table I'd assembled wrong, so it wobbled if you leaned on it. The closet I converted into a tiny office because I couldn't afford a bigger place with a real one. For years, this condo was the finish line I crawled toward. I skipped vacations, drove a car old enough to vote, learned to fix leaky sinks from YouTube instead of calling plumbers. My friends went to bars on weekends. I did DoorDash after work for extra cash. And when the bank sent that letter saying mortgage paid in full, I stuck it on my fridge with a dumb magnet shaped like a cow. It felt like the biggest win of my life. So when my sister Rachel showed up out of nowhere that Tuesday afternoon, I thought maybe she came to congratulate me. She doesn't usually visit alone. Most times if she's in the area, she drags our parents or her husband Mark with her. But this time it was just her, standing in my doorway holding a giant iced coffee, looking like she owned the place already. Hey, I said, stepping aside. She walked in without answering, eyes roaming over everything like she was inspecting an apartment for rent. She peeked into the second bedroom, the bathroom, even my tiny office closet. She stopped in the kitchen, hands on her hips. This place is bigger than I remember, she said finally. Thanks. She nodded like she'd confirmed something in her head. Then she turned around and looked straight at me. So she began like we were in the middle of some ongoing discussion. We've agreed this place should belong to the family. Now, I blinked at her. Excuse me, a family place, she said again slower. This time like I was missing the point. It's ridiculous for you to keep all this room to yourself when Mark and I have a baby and rent is impossible. We'll be moving in. You can find somewhere else. She said it casually, like announcing the weather. I laughed because what else do you do when someone says something insane? But Rachel didn't laugh back. She crossed her arms and raised her eyebrows like I was the one being weird. Wait, you're serious? I asked. Of course, she said. Mom and Dad agree. It's the best thing for everyone. It's not like you need all this room. It's just you. I looked around my little condo like maybe she saw some secret ballroom I didn't know about. You're joking, right? You don't just decide you're moving into my place. Rachel rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. It's a family home now. You'll understand once you have kids. That part made me laugh harder. Rachel, this isn't a family home. I bought it. I paid for it. It's mine. She waved her hand like that was a minor detail. Yeah, but come on. It's not fair for you to keep it when we need the space more. You can get an apartment somewhere. Something small. You don't even use the second bedroom. I just stood there. I've heard some wild stuff from my family before, but this was a new level. You've already talked to Mom and Dad? I asked. Of course, she said like it was obvious. They think it makes total sense. Do they also think I'm just going to hand over my keys and start packing? A campsite. Like I was being unreasonable. Look, we're not trying to fight. It's just what's best for everyone. Mark's hours got cut. Daycare costs keep going up. And you're sitting here with 2 bedrooms and no kids. It's kind of selfish, don't you think? I blinked at her. Selfish. Because I worked overtime and skipped dinners out so I could have a stable place to live. And now I'm selfish for not giving it away. Rachel grabbed her coffee from the counter like the conversation was settled. We'll need to move in by the end of next month. Gives you time to find somewhere. She was already heading for the door before I even answered. Rachel, I said, finally, catching up to what just happened. You're not moving in here. She paused with her hand on the doorknob and gave me this smile, the kind people use when they think you'll come around. Eventually, we've already talked to Mom and Dad, she repeated, and then she left. I stood in the middle of my living room staring at the door after it shut. The fridge kicked on behind me, making that familiar groan. I looked over at the mortgage letters still hanging there, with the cow magnet. For a second, I wondered if I imagined the whole thing. But no, Rachel was serious. And apparently so were my parents. I didn't feel angry yet, just off balance, like the floor had tilted a little, and I was waiting to see if it would keep going. After Rachel left, I just stood there for a while staring at the door like it might open again. It didn't. I sat down, opened my laptop, tried to focus on work, but my brain kept circling back to what she said. Family asset, like she and Mark had the right to decide that. For me, I figured if I was going to tell the whole story, I should explain how we got here, because this didn't start yesterday. Been working since I was 16. My first job was bussing tables at this greasy diner near high school. Minimum wage plus tips if customers felt generous. Most didn't. After that, it was summer shifts at the hardware store, then a part-time gig at the campus library during college. By the time I graduated, I had this habit of saying yes to every extra hour I could get. I lived cheap for a long time. Studio, apartment with a view of a brick wall, furniture off Craigslist. Meanwhile, Rachel was living a completely different life. She's 4 years younger. My parents covered her cheer camp fees, her driving lessons, her prom dress, while telling me they were tight on money when I needed new brakes on my car. Rachel was the golden child. Teachers loved her. Neighbors doted on her when she forgot assignments. My parents said she was just tired. When I got a B instead of an A, they asked why I wasn't studying harder. It wasn't like she was evil or anything. She was just used to things bending her way. When I was in college, she got into some private university with a price tag that made my stomach hurt. Parents co-signed her loans. Without blinking, I was out of state. School on scholarships and part-time jobs. She studied communications, posted pictures at tailgate parties, spring breaks, trendy coffee shops. I spent nights in the library trying to finish projects before my 6 a.m. shift, unloading trucks at the warehouse. When I bought the condo 5 years ago, it was the cheapest decent 2-bedroom I could find in a neighborhood that wasn't falling apart, needed work peeling, paint, ancient appliances, floors that squeaked in certain spots. But it was mine. I remember signing the papers with hands that wouldn't stop shaking because I was terrified I'd screw it somehow. Rachel came by once back then, walked through the place, wrinkling her nose. It's cozy, she said, which is a polite way of saying small. It's what I can afford, I told her. She smiled like she was humoring me. I mean, I could never live somewhere like this, but good for you. That stuck with me. I worked extra shifts fixing other people's laptops on weekends, lived on instant noodles, skipped buying decent clothes for years, just so I could own a place, and my sister treated it like some starter apartment she was too good for. Fast forward, she marries Mark. He's fine. Quiet guy, teaches middle school science, always polite, but never really talked much when we were around each other. They rented a nice 3-bedroom apartment not far from here, newer building, gym, rooftop deck that works way nicer than my condo. They had a baby last year. Cute kid. I sent gifts, visited, tried to be the good uncle. Then daycare costs started hitting them. Mark's hours got cut. Rachel quit her part-time marketing job to stay home. Money problems began trickling into conversations, little comments about bills, rent, tight months. I figured they downsize like normal people do when costs get out of hand. Instead, Rachel shows up at my door claiming my condo is now for the family, like it was community property, just because we share DNA. And my parents, I wasn't even surprised they took her side. The difference now is this place isn't some family toy everyone gets to borrow. It's the one thing I broke my back to earn for myself. And suddenly Rachel thinks she can waltz and claim it. And mom and dad will back her because they always do. But here's the thing. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not living in their house, eating their food, borrowing their car. I pay my bills. I keep my place nice. I finally have something solid under my feet. And I'll be honest, hearing Rachel call it selfish for me to keep the place I paid for lit something in my chest I hadn't felt before. Like anger, sure. But also the stubbornness I didn't even know I had. Because this time it's not about sharing toys or rides to school. It's my home, and I'm not giving it up. The call started the morning after Rachel showed up at my place. First, Mom. Sweetie, I heard you were a little tense yesterday, she said in that voice people use when they're about to lecture you. But pretend they're not. Tense? I asked. Rachel told us what happened. You have to see it from her side. They have a baby. Rent's impossible right now, Mom. She showed up and announced she was moving into my home like it was already decided. Nobody asked me anything. She probably just assumed he'd help out. Family helps each other. That's what we do. I told her I wasn't agreeing to anything, and she sighed like I just confessed to being a villain in a movie. You don't even use the second bedroom, she said, and it's just sitting there while they struggle. Doesn't seem fair. I told her again it wasn't happening. She said we'd talk more at dinner. Sunday. I didn't even know there was a dinner Sunday. By lunch, my phone was buzzing again. My dad this time, same speech, but with a disappointed tone. Like I'd broken some family code. He said things like, step up and bigger picture. I reminded him I wasn't the one asking someone else to give up their home. He told me not to be dramatic. Then a text from an aunt I haven't seen in over a year. Honey, they just need a break. You can get another place later. Like people keep spare condos in their back pocket. By that evening, Rachel texted a long message about how this was temporary and for the good of the family. She attached a spreadsheet Mark made showing how much money they'd saved by moving in with me. It had rent at 0, utilities cut in half, and nothing listed for HOA fees or repairs. Like the place maintained itself out of kindness. I didn't respond. Instead, I checked the complex's public site. They post the standard lease terms. Early termination is 3 months rent. My eyebrows went up. So this wasn't just about wanting more space. This was about avoiding a bill. A couple hours later, I called my friend, Sam, who works front desk at a local real estate office, asked him general questions about rental applications, lately denials, stuff like that. He said there had been a lot. High debt, missed payments, credit scores in the tank. He didn't name anyone specifically, but I started connecting dots on my own. I didn't share any of that with Mom or Dad. No point yet. Friday afternoon. Another call. Mom again. We're doing family dinner Sunday, she said. Everyone will be there. We can talk this through. Calmly, right? I knew exactly how those dinners went. Table full of relatives all nodding along while someone tells you you're being unreasonable. Voices staying polite until you give in. It's like intervention, but with lasagna. Still, I said fine, I'd go. Saturday evening. Rachel texted again. We need to be out of here in 4 weeks. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder for who? I wondered. I didn't answer. Sunday came. I drove over to my parents' place. After lunch, their house is the same one we grew up in. Same peeling wallpaper in the hallway. Same couch that sinks in the middle because Dad refuses to replace it. When I walked in, the smell of garlic bread hit me first. The table was already set. Rachel and Mark sat together on one side like a panel, waiting to interview me. My parents hovered in the kitchen. Hey, I said. Rachel smiled like nothing was wrong. Hey, we're just about to eat. I knew what the plan was the second I sat down. At that table, Rachel had the fake polite smile on the one she used when she was about to ask for something big. Mark looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Mom and Dad kept giving each other these silent nods like they had a script ready to go. Rachel started. First, we only need the condo for a year, she said, voice soft like she was doing me a favor by setting a timeline. A year? I asked. Well, maybe less, she said quickly. Depends how fast we get back on our feet. I didn't respond. She pushed the folder of papers toward me again. Mark and I worked out a plan, budget, timeline, everything. Mark cleared his throat. It's very organized. We'd cover utilities. Obviously, we just wouldn't be paying rent since you already own the place. Utilities? I asked, flipping through the pages. That's it. Rachel nodded like that was generous. Mom leaned in. Honey, it's temporary. Think of the baby. She needs her own room. I looked at Rachel. You rent a 3-bedroom now. It's too expensive, she said flatly. So get a smaller place. She didn't like that. Her mouth tightened. Why should we uproot everything when you have space sitting there unused? I stared at her because it's my home. Dad sighed, setting down his fork like he was about to deliver wisdom from a mountain. This is about family working together. You've got the room. They've got the need. It's common sense. I pointed at the papers in front of me. You wrote this like I already agreed. Did anyone think to actually ask me first? Silence. Rachel finally said, we Figured you'd be reasonable once you saw the numbers. I flipped to the so-called budget page. No HOA fees listed. No. Repairs. Utilities cut in half like. Electricity bills run on vibes. Rent. Zero. I pushed the folder back toward her. Not happening. Her smile cracked. Why not? You don't even use the second bedroom. That doesn't matter. It's just sitting there while we're drowning in bills, she said, voice rising a little. And you've got extra space you don't need. It's selfish. There it was again. Selfish. Like the years I spent working. Double shifts, eating instant noodles. Saying no to vacations so I could pay. This place often count. I leaned back in my chair. I looked at your lease. I said. Rachel froze. What? It's public. I said. 3 months rent if you break it early, right? That's what this is really about. Mark shifted. Uncomfortably, Rachel's face went red. And that's none of your business, she snapped. You're making it my business, I said, keeping my voice even. You want to move into my home to avoid paying penalties on yours. Be honest about it. Mom frowned. Is that true? Rachel glared at me like I'd betrayed her. We just need a fresh start. Why are you making this so hard? Because you showed up and announced you were moving in like I had no say. I said like my years of work don't matter because you want an easy out. Mark finally spoke. Look, we're just trying to find a solution that works for everyone or for you too? I asked. He didn't answer. Rachel looked at Mom desperate. Tell him. This makes sense. You know it does. Mom hesitated then said, honey, they do have the baby to think about. I cut her off. Then maybe they should have planned better instead of showing up here with fake budgets and expecting me to hand over my keys. Rachel slammed her hand on the table. We're family. Family helps each other. Family also respects each other. I said, you don't get to decide. My home isn't mine anymore because you made bad financial choices. Dad finally spoke up. All right, let's calm down. No, I said, standing. You all sat here, ready to guilt trip me like I'm the bad guy for not giving up the one thing I've worked for. I'm not doing it. Rachel's voice shook now. So, you'd rather see us homeless than help you rent a 3-bedroom apartment, I said. Sell the furniture, break the lease, move to a cheaper place. People do it all the time, but you're not moving in here. Mom looked stunned. You don't mean that? I do, I said. This isn't a debate anymore. Rachel's face went red. Mark stared at the table like the wood grain was fascinating. I grabbed my jacket. Thanks for dinner, I said, heading for the door. Good luck with the lease. Nobody stopped me. As I left, I heard Rachel mutter something to Mom about me being cold-hearted. I didn't even look back. And after dinner, the family chorus kicked in. Rachel with, we can still work this out. Mom with family comes first. Dad's bigger picture. Even in Uncle I haven't seen in a year weighing in with she has a baby. You don't. I stopped replying. I wasn't changing my mind. A week passed. One night after work, I got home and noticed something by the door. Fine scratches near the lock. A scuff mark low on the wood like someone kicked it lightly. I ran my finger over the scratches. Could be nothing sure, but I've lived here 5 years. I know every dent and squeak in this place. That wasn't there before. My stomach felt heavy. I went inside, locked the door, and sat down at my laptop. I filled out the city's online non-emergency report form. Just the basics. Possible tampering. No entry. No suspects. I hit submit, got the confirmation email, closed the laptop. Next day, I swapped in a drill-resistant deadbolt and added 2 cameras, a door viewer facing the hallway, and a small motion-activated cam inside covering the entry, both recorded in high definition. And sent alerts to my phone. Didn't cost much. Worth every penny if I was right about who was creeping around. For 2 nights, nothing happened. The camera stayed quiet. Still, I kept checking the feeds before bed, volume up on my phone, in case alerts came through. 3rd night, it happened. 2:37 a.m. Buzzing phone on the nightstand woke me up. Motion detected at your door. I grabbed the phone, opened the app. The grainy black and white feed showed someone standing at my door. Rachel. Hoodie up, hair sticking out the sides. Shoulders hunched. She had something shiny in her hand, moving it around the lock. I felt my chest go tight. I hit record on the app, swung my legs out of bed, and dialed 911. Whispered to the dispatcher. Someone's trying to break into my condo. I have video. Gave the address. Stayed on the line. Rachel kept working the lock like she'd done it. Before, like she knew I wasn't home. The building's hallway lights kicked on. Automatic timer. She froze for half a second, looked over her shoulder, then went back to jiggling the lock. The dispatcher said units were close, told me to stay put. I watched through the phone screen, heart hammering. A minute later, 2 cops came into view on the hallway camera, walking fast. Rachel didn't see them until they were almost on top of her. I stayed behind the door until the officers came down the hall. When they told her to step back, I opened up and showed them the live feed with the tool at the lock. The cops asked for ID. She stammered, said something about forgetting her keys. I showed them the app recording her with the screwdriver clear as day. They detained her right there in the hallway, cuffed, red wrists, the whole thing. I wasn't smug. I wasn't even angry in that moment, just tired, shaky, like my body hadn't caught up with my brain yet. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. One cop stayed to take my statement while the other walked Rachel down the hall. 5 minutes later, Mark showed up, hair messy, sweatpants looking like he sprinted over. What's going on? He asked, voice cracking. She tried to break in, I said flatly. Mark looked at the cop, then at me. It's a misunderstanding. She had a spare from before. I cut him off. I never gave her a spare. She thought she still had one, he said weakly. She didn't, I said. Mark rubbed his face. Didn't argue after that. Just mumbled something about calling a lawyer and followed the cops out. I locked the door behind them, double-checked the deadbolt, sat on the couch staring at nothing for a long time. The cameras kept recording until the hallway went quiet again. The morning after Rachel got arrested, I called off work for a couple hours. I wanted everything documented before people started calling me names again. First, stopped the police station. I turned over the video files. They said they'd pulled a 911 audio from dispatch. One of the officers gave me a case number and said the video made things pretty straightforward. They'd filed the report, forwarded it to the prosecutor, and I'd get updates later. When I got home, I made 2 copies of everything. One on a thumb drive, one in a locked folder in my cloud account. I printed out the incident report and stuck it in a folder with my mortgage papers. Then I emailed my boss saying I'd be a bit late to work because of a personal security incident. That was all I said. He wrote back, handle what you need to. Thanks for letting me know. I left it at that. By noon, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Mom first. How could you do this to your sister? She asked, voice sharp. She tried to break into my condo at 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, I didn't do this. She did. You didn't have to call the police, Mom said, like there had been some better option. She had a screwdriver in my lock. I said, what did you want me to do? Open the door and offer her coffee. Families should handle things privately, Mom said. Does privately mean pretending it didn't happen? I asked. She didn't answer that. 2 hours later, Dad called. Same tone, different words. She has a baby, he said. She made a mistake. Don't ruin her life over this. She made her own choices. I said I was asleep in my own home. I'm not apologizing for protecting it. He muttered something about me being cold. I hung up before saying something. Idiragat. By evening, my aunt texted. She didn't mean it. Just dropped the charges. I ignored it. 2 days later, a neighbor mentioned an old fraud case. Court records showed a deferred sentence and probation from years back. The new arrest didn't violate active probation, but it did mean a new conviction on top of a prior case. I looked it up later. Court records are public if you know where to look. Sure enough, Rachel had a small fraud charge from 5 years ago. Deferred sentence, probation fine, paid. Nothing major, but it was there. I didn't post about it anywhere. Didn't tell cousins. Didn't go on some big rant online. I answered the prosecutors' questions, emailed the footage when they asked for it, and kept everything boring and professional. Rachel's case moved fast. They booked her on misdemeanor charges related to the break-in attempt, and the prior case didn't help. She pleaded guilty to avoid a bigger mess. Judge gave her a short sentence, 3 months, and a criminal record that wouldn't go away this time. Mark texted me while she was inside. Long paragraph about how they'd been under stress, daycare costs, medical bills, rent too high, life coming at them too fast. He said Rachel was just trying to do what parents do. Keep a roof over their kid's head. I read it twice, saved it, didn't respond. Their money situation tanked hard after that. They were still in a fixed term lease. When they broke it, the 3-month penalty hit. After that, they grabbed a short month-to-month elsewhere, and the rate jumped, with Rachel not working, and now with a record Mark was carrying. The whole thing on a teacher's salary. Free. Months later, Rachel was out. I heard from Mom they'd moved in with her and Dad for a while. That's between you and them, I said. Not my business anymore. Mom didn't like that answer. She said the house was tense. Rachel and Mark argued about bills. Dad hated the noise. Mom tried to keep the peace. I stayed out of it. A month later, I saw Dad in person. He stopped by my condo to drop off some mail that had gone to their address. He looked tired. Your sister's having a rough time, he said. Finally, she made her choices. I said, she says you hate her now. I don't hate her, I said, but I'm done being the person everyone leans on while calling me selfish. He didn't argue, didn't defend her, just nodded slowly, handed me the mail and left. That was the last real conversation we had about it. Life went back to normal for me faster than I expected. I kept my routine the same. Work in the mornings, gym in the evenings, fixed the sticky window in my living room one Saturday, finally painted the patchy wall in the hallway with cheap rollers and way too much blue tape. Little things I'd been meaning to do for years. Later, I heard through my mom that Rachel wanted to clear the air. My first thought was she wanted to yell at me. My second thought was she probably wanted something again. I didn't reach out. Instead, I mailed them a single thing, a framed photo of my front door with a new lock installed. Under it, a short note. Hope you find a place that's yours for real. No swearing, no insults, just clear. 2 weeks later, Mom called. Rachel wants to talk, she said carefully, like I was a wild animal she didn't want to spook. About what? About she wants to apologize, Mom said. Does this apology come before or after she asks for something? I asked. Silence on the line. I'll meet her, I said finally, but here's the deal. My home is off the table. Nobody shows up uninvited. If she can't agree to that, I'm not coming. Mom agreed. The meetup was set for Saturday at their house. Neutral ground, Mom said. Rachel was already there when I arrived, sitting at the kitchen table, arms crossed, chin up. Mark sat next to her, looking like he wanted to disappear into his chair. I sat across from them. All right, I said. You wanted to talk. Go ahead. Rachel didn't waste time. You didn't have to call the cops. She started, voice sharp. Family doesn't do that to each other. I stared at her. You tried to break into my home. I was desperate, she said, like that made it fine. You wouldn't listen. You left us. No choice. There was a choice, I said. You could have found another apartment. Like normal people. She waved a hand. You know how hard it is with a baby with bills? We needed help. You wanted a free house, I said flatly. We deserved help. She snapped. You don't have kids. You don't understand what it's like. All that space going to waste while we were drowning. I felt my jaw tighten. Space I worked for. Space I paid for while you were calling it small and laughing at it. 5 years ago, Rachel rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. That was different. No, I said, keeping my voice even. You treated this place like it was nothing until you needed it. Then you decided it was yours, not asked, decided. You could have just let us stay a few months, she shot back. But no, you had to make it this big thing, pressing charges. Really? You ruined my record. You ruined your record, I said. You picked up that screwdriver. You showed up at 2:37 in the morning. Not me. Rachel leaned forward, eyes sharp. You think you're better than us because you have a condo and no responsibilities? You think working a few extra hours makes you some kind of hero? I laughed once, short and dry. No, I think it makes me the person who owns the place you tried to steal. Her face went red. We just needed a break and I needed boundaries, I said. Now I have them. She opened her mouth. But I kept going. You showed up. Uninvited. You ignored every no I gave. You tried to break in and now you're mad at me because there were consequences. Mark finally spoke, voice low. She just means it didn't have to go this far. It went as far as she pushed it, I said. I'm not carrying that for her. Rachel glared at me, fists tight on the table. One day, you'll need help. Don't expect us to be there. I stood up. Good. That way we're all clear. She blinked like she didn't expect that answer. I hope you figure things out, I said. But my home is off limits forever. No debates, no surprises. We're done. Here. I walked out before she could fire back. Weeks passed after that. Mom tried a couple more times to get everyone together for family dinner. I told her the same thing each time. If my home comes up, even once I'm leaving, she said she understood. I kept my routine. Work gym, fixing small things around the condo. I bought some cheap plants for the windowsill, upgraded my desk chair. Finally, life felt quiet. One afternoon, a cousin mentioned Rachel had picked up a part-time job at a daycare. Mark grabbed extra tutoring hours at school. After a few months, they found a small rental farther from the city. Cheaper. Older place, but theirs. I didn't reach out. Not angry, just done. A year later, the condo looked better than it ever had. Fresh paint on every wall, not just the hallway this time. New locks on both doors. The squeaky floorboard near the bedroom finally fixed after years of promising myself I'd get around to it. I bought a decent couch, got rid of the lumpy one I'd been hanging on to since college, picked up a used rug that didn't clash with the curtains for once. Even the closet office looked better. I mounted a real shelf instead of stacking everything on milk crates. The plants by the windowsill still alive somehow. A couple even had new leaves. I watered them on schedule, gave them the good sunlight, talked to them sometimes when I was bored. Coming home felt different now, not because the place looked nice, but because it was mine in a way it hadn't been before. I'd open the door after work, hear the deadbolt click behind me and feel it in my shoulders. The weight of the last year just gone. No surprise visitors, no guilt trips, no phone calls telling me I was selfish. The quiet wasn't lonely. It was steady. For the first time in a long time, I could actually sit on my couch with the TV off. No noise, no drama, and just breathe in my own space without wondering what fight was coming next. Peace, not victory, not revenge, just boundaries that stayed where I put them. And for me, that was